Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be going over quite a large update that happened to Enlisted on the 4th of August 2021. Now, over the last week, there hasn't actually been quite a lot of news in Enlisted. Basically, we had a few little server updates, but mainly you had the Battle Summer last month, and then it's kind of been a little bit tepid for a while. And now, with at least today, we have one of the larger changes, which has changed a lot of the gameplay stuff, and also fixed a ton of bugs which are in the game, which is hopefully very powerful. We'll have to see going forward. I played Enlisted last night, and we'll be playing it tonight on stream, and generally it was quite a nice experience. A lot of the issues that I've had in the game personally have been fixed over the time. There's still a few there, but they're more gameplay balancing things instead of bugs. Anyway, let's get into it. So the first part is they've changed a bunch of missions and locations. The first one is they've added a new mission, the Moat Invasion in the Battle of Berlin, which is kind of interesting. I'm pretty sure this is one that I've actually played yesterday. It might be a slightly different one, but what they're adding to Berlin now is more maps which are Germany on the offensive, because a lot of the maps, at least right now, are the USSR on the offensive and Germany playing the defensive. And this is kind of what we saw in Normandy as well, when it came to the Americans on the offensive and the Germans on the defensive. But over time, they add more maps for the other side to be on the offensive. Because even though in these conflicts, obviously in Berlin, Germany is generally on the defensive, you still want a good mix between, the different ones. If the Moat Invasion mission on Berlin is similar to the one or the same as the one that I played yesterday, it's pretty much one of the invasion missions involving the Reichstag, but it's just flipped. So you start off at the Reichstag as Germany and push the Soviets back to the bridge. It works pretty well. It's, as I said, it's basically just the same thing with obviously the multiple paths as well. They also added alternate assault paths in the Vyosakovo village invasion mission in the Battle of Moscow. I like these alternate paths. I think they're really cool. They do change the gameplay quite a lot, which is nice. I'm a little bit worried about some of the zones you have to hold. Some of the zones are incredibly tight spaces, normally the size of houses, and they have multiple floors. So as a defender, it's really hard to hold these areas, especially if the top floor is taken, because normally the mid or the low floor have holes into them, so it's very easy to just control them from the top. So we'll have to see how they go. I'm sure balancing will happen when it comes to capture time and everything like that, but overall just having multiple paths has definitely increased the variety in gameplay. They also added alternative point sawmill in the Maysky forestry mission in the Battle of Moscow, so therefore once again another branching path, very nice to see. They added an alternative assault path of missions Versailles and the Ruins of Vaux in the Invasion of Normandy campaign, and also alternative mission paths and missions of Königsplatz and also Ministry Garden in the Battle of Berlin campaign as well. And one of the big things is they've added additional light sources and interiors in the Battle of Berlin campaign. This is incredibly positive. One of the issues that I've talked about quite a lot, mainly on the Moscow campaign, but it's also present on the Berlin campaign, is the fact that when you look into a house, it's pitch black, and then you start getting shot from it. This is one of the issues that you see a lot on the Moscow campaign, and this would be very much solved by just putting light sources in the houses, whether it be lamps, whether it be candles, just anything to make it so seeing a silhouette of a soldier is a little bit easier to do, instead of just getting killed by basically a black mist at the end of the day. So I'm glad that they're doing this. I'm glad that they're improving this. And, sometimes it's nice to have dark areas, but a lot of the time it's much better to be visible and to be able to see what's going on. They also excluded excessively dark mission daytime versions for the Kroll Opera House and Königsplatz in the Battle of Berlin campaign. Very positive, once again for the same reasons. It's if you've ever played games in general, being limited by light, especially in a PvP game, only leads to frustration. It's one of those things, at least for me, when I've played other games where the light sources in a PvP concept has been annihilated. Basically what happens is you either get everybody camping around the place, waiting for people to push, or what you do is you have some people who negate that advantage through graphical settings or negate it through attachments in the game, and they just rule the roost, and it's not too fun. But overall, missions and locations looking good. Gonna have to give these branching paths a try. As I said, the only issue I've seen so far is some of the zones, especially the ones which are designed around like a single house, incredibly hard to defend from a defensive side, but they are new, so this may change going forward. They also changed some interface and graphics stuff, so a hint was added for heavily wounded soldiers to open the soldier selection window if no switching is set, So, to get people away from just being sat on the ground and getting more mobile. That's completely fine. Obviously I personally don't need it, but I'm sure many other players do. They added a hint to replenish ammo if all ammo is used, so once again, not a huge thing, but also it's good to be reminded. Markers of enemy vehicles will now move with the vehicle. Time before the marker disappears has been lowered to 15 seconds. This is incredibly positive. We're actually using this last night. Basically what happens if you mark a tank and the tank is moving, it will go with it, but it will stay on the center of the vehicle. This is just better for helping the team. This is better for setting them up against planes and stuff like that, and also other tanks, and it makes a lot more sense because it's not like, in real life, if you mark something, then, if it moves, you're going to see it, right? Like, you're not just marking it then and then not looking at it again. So I think this is very positive. This is good. It takes away a little bit more power from the tanks, which is incredibly important since I don't want personally Enlisted to become a vehicle-based game. They fixed a bug when no additional elements and fittings were displayed in the craft icon. Fair enough. They changed the style of the main buttons. They basically added a border to most of them is probably the best way to put it, and they look fine. There's no real difference. They just look a little bit more punchy. Generally putting a border around something, normally a black and white border, meaning that you do let's say you have a red circle. If you put like a slight white circle around it, then a black circle, it just means that whatever's on the center, it now people see it more, basically. Like they're able to have a look better. So it's not a bad idea. Also, the upper screen messages contrast increased for better readability, which is also good. You could just once again put a border around it, and it just makes it a lot easier to read. They've also changed the M1 carbine. The upgrade now operates in the same way as the other members of the model, so the M1A1 carbine, the M2, and also the M2A1. They removed the plus 10% rate of fire bonus at level 2, and the damage bonus at level 3 has been lowered from 20 to 10%. I've seen a lot of people complain about the carbine, and I kind of understand why. It's got pretty horrendous recoil, especially when it's like 1 star, but the thing is, you get the Garand pretty quickly after it, and as a starter semi-automatic, I think the carbine's completely fine. An upgraded one also deals a lot with the recoil issues of the gun. The damage over distance, though, is the main issue I have with it, but as I said, normally by that point you've already unlocked the Garand, and you can go with that instead. Some gameplay changes as well. The selected formation will be safe for each squad. It will not be reset when it's destroyed or when the mission ends. My guess is this is the formation, the loose or the wide or the close one that you can put in. I haven't really used the feature too much myself, but I should give it a go and see how it affects the squad management. Now window glass is broken if soldiers move through it. That's probably good. I thought that was the case before though. I'm guessing it wasn't, so maybe I wasn't seeing it, but that's good because it can tell you where people have been. It also makes a sound, so you can work out where people are coming from. They added smoke signals in Lone Fighters mode to mark the capture points. I think that's good, so you know where they are, especially since they've gone for like the whole realism thing with no HUD and all of that good stuff. The options now allow setting up the language of the narrator according to the nations you play for. This is really cool, like absolutely awesome. So, and also something that people have been asking in War Thunder for a long time. Basically, everything like the point has been captured, move back. That is now in the original language. Now, this wasn't working yesterday, but we had another minor update today, which supposedly fixed it. So we're going to have to see if that's the case, but I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's a really cool addition to the game, and I hope we see more stuff like this. It's just awesome to have that. They changed the way vehicle crew members are rewarded as well. This was a big issue in the game in general. The additional assist points are now distributed among the crew. Amount of additional points is fixed and does not depend on the amount of crew. Killed crew members do not earn assist points and their share is not distributed. One person, crew, aircraft earn additional points themselves, and additional points are awarded only in squads mode. So that makes sense because obviously squad modes, you have multiple people that you can control at once, especially in tanks. This is obviously in an attempt to fix tanks just getting a ridiculous amount of assists and getting a ridiculous amount of score with it in games, and therefore, you know, being number one by not really doing a lot. You know, if you're in like something like a Panzer IV and, you know, you have a 5-man crew, if you killed somebody, then you get 1 kill and 4 assists, right? And then if you just keep doing that over and over again, you'd end up with like 60 kills and 200 assists, or even more. And this basically meant that the balance of scores and the balance of general grinding was a little bit off, and it meant that one of the best ways to play was just being a tank and just machine gun people down and shoot other tanks. So hopefully here this will be fixed with these changes, especially the one about the amount of additional points is fixed and does not depend on the amount of crew. We'll have to see how it works, but hopefully it's a step in the right direction for reducing the power of tanks when it comes to grinding. They've also done a bunch of bug fixes as well, which is really cool. So they fixed a bug that disallowed shooting of soldiers operating a gun, which is kind of funny, I suppose. But thank God that's fixed. They fixed an incorrect work of the spawn point selection if chosen point became inactive due to a nearby combat. This is also very good. They fixed a bug where it was not possible to call an artillery strike without switching to radio operator. This was a really annoying one, and it's actually been in since CBT. It basically made me whenever I spawned in with a radio operator in my squad, I would just quick switch through the whole of it just to make sure that it would reset it so you could actually use the artillery. So I'm very glad that they fixed that one. Shell counts now work correctly in vehicles. This is awesome. I wonder if this also is attributed to the ammo inside the vehicle. They fixed a bug with hanging reloading cycles in vehicles. So I'm guessing that is where it looks like it's reloading, but it's not, or it looks like it is reloaded, but it isn't. So that's good. It fixed a bug with incorrect tank cannon rendering over large distance when it might be displayed rotated to the opposite side. Oh, hallelujah! That is an absolutely wonderful change. It's great to see this one. This was one of the most annoying bugs, especially on the Battle of Berlin campaign, when it was Panthers versus T-34s, because basically what would happen is you would be looking at a T-34 and a Panther, and their turret would be turned around. So you either try and shoot their hull, or you try and take a gamble and shoot their turrets. But if you look at it and you weren't aware of what was going on, you would shoot the back of the turret and it wouldn't do any damage, and you'd be like, well, what's going on? But technically you were shooting the front of the turret, you just couldn't see it. So this is a huge improvement, one of the biggest bugs in the game at this current time, and the fact that it's fixed, very, very positive. They also fixed missing animations and sounds for engineers building guns. Well, that's good. And also the correct ammo counter for mortar now exists. That's nice. And they fixed some bugs with frame jumps and freezes when capturing strategic zones. That's awesome. Optimization, at least on my end of things, when it comes to streaming, has heavily improved recently. The only thing that I have now is, once again, some of the trees on some of the missions are a little bit rough, but everything else is in tip-top shape, and I'm very, very happy about this. They fixed a bug when in the assault mode, battle was not ended with timer expiration, so it just kept going. That's kind of interesting. In training mode, replace the T-3457 with the T-3485 to match the campaign vehicle set. Makes sense, you know, that one does make sense. You want to try and give people the training capacity to train with the vehicles that they're actually used to. Fixed incorrect removal of a killed soldier from the squad list. So yeah, they've started doing this thing now where, and I wish this was an option in the menu, but I think it's a fine thing. Basically, when a soldier dies in your squad, their name and their thing will be removed from the left-hand side, from the bottom left. So it's kind of a way to try and minimize the amount of UI the game has. And I think, you know, for an FPS, you want a clean UI, sorry, and I think they're doing a really good job with that, but I would like the option to be able to see all of my troops and who has died and who has not, just because it would be more useful for me working out what I can do with different things. They fixed the progress display on the campaign menu. I don't know how they fixed it, but I thought it looked fine before. Online friends counter now works properly. I mean, that's been an issue since CBT, so lovely to see that too. And then they fixed an incorrect display of contact search results when you clear the search line. This is a problem a lot of other games have as well, and also fixed some localization errors. So once again, really nice. Overall, very positive on the fixes. And there was also two more from today. The bug that activated the incorrect strategic zone in mission at Ruins of Vo has been fixed, and the location of the battle zones in the mission moat invasion have been improved. So we're going to have to see how that is going. But yeah, this update was quite large. It fixed a lot of issues that I personally had, and also added in a few other things, like the German engineers now in the Battle of Berlin campaign. They actually have camouflaged helmets, which is really cool, when they didn't before. There's also a few other things that have been added to the game, which are not in the changelogs themselves. Overall, a very good changelog. We'll have to test out the missions to see how they all go. There isn't too many balancing things here. It's mainly just more bug fixes and adding improvements to the missions. So as I said, we'll give it a go and report back. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank BRFC, Swollen Ostrich, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe A, Conte Baraka, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Lafouche, Barine, and Samuel Schlick for supporting the channel.